Welcome to the Growth Zone. I am Christian Bartsch and I have a really interesting session for you today. Welcome to today's episode. So, we are going to be focusing on the key topic of salespeople in IT sector. Yes, they are supposed to be able to double their income in the United Kingdom by 2021. We will be looking at the three key subjects inside that topic, and therefore we will be first identifying the areas of growth. Secondly, try to recognize what is needed to set the foundation for success. And what does this actually mean for people in other countries, in the US, in Germany, in Sweden, South Africa, or any other places around the world? What does it actually mean, and how can we become more successful? Whether we are salespeople or technical people, maybe even merging into a sales role or being both, like pre-sales people, pre-sales consulting, and that's a mix as well of roles where you have sales and you have technical expertise. There are different kinds of versions of sales people in the market. So let's have a look at that. So let's start with the first part of our topic around salespeople and why they actually are going to be successful in doubling their income by 2021. So what's actually happening in the world? The world is being forced to lock down, forced to change their work habits. They are actually being driven out of business in some cases, or being frozen. But do we really need to be frozen as businesses, as business owners, entrepreneurs, employees, and so on? Does our business really need to be frozen? Not really. Because what's happening? So companies are having to have their staff working from home. Okay. So just imagine you're a salesperson and you have to contact a potential lead. You usually would even do cold calling, and you would be calling a phone number and expecting somebody to be in the office at a certain time. Now, what happens if you're doing that now? Many people are not in their office. They're working from home. Maybe they're able to answer the emails, work on some different kinds of tasks and that. But they're not going to respond to your phone calls because maybe their desk phone isn't being redirected to their cell phone or to their phone at home or so. So that's really a thing, especially if the people aren't able to go into the office and change the settings on their desk phone, or if their IT isn't able to do this somehow virtually and then go and redirect all the phones to the individual recipients whilst they're working at home. Some companies do have company cell phones for the employees, and they had that before. So that wasn't a deal, no big issue. But if they don't have that, many people have then the private cell phones. And some might even say, wait a minute, why should I use my private cell phone to then call you guys who want to sell me something at my expenses? Why should I? And that's the thing. So let's have a look. Where is there actually opportunity for businesses and for you as a salesperson? Because you eventually might even get a considerable amount of your income from your profits that you generate, from the sales that you actually get closed. And that's the thing. Your commissions require you, of course, to get people closed, to get the delivery done, and the people have to pay as well for the delivery. Because if you close something and it doesn't pay, it's just a paper sale, and that's not really going to help your financial situation. So let's have a look. What are the areas where we really can expect growth and where the opportunities are really attractive and we aren't having to try to fight against a brick wall that's just not going to budge. So the IT sector consists of different kind of areas. So we have software, we have hardware, we have infrastructure, and even inside software we have different kind of software products. We have the typical desktop application you install on a notebook or desktop. And then we have the cloud solutions. We have maybe client-server applications where you have to install it on a server on that. And let's look at hardware. Hardware, we can have different kind of hardware. We can have routers, switches, servers, database servers, all the different kind of equipment, hubs, and so on and so on. But if everybody is going into a digital world where everybody is working from home, trying to sell routers into an environment where there's actually nobody sitting in there, and they're already even moving into the cloud, are you really going to expect their big growth? Does somebody really need a router or let's say a big hub or switch at home? I have one, of course, in my home because I have so much equipment and everything and doing lots of different things. I'm doing programming, I'm doing the podcast like now, different shows and so on, and have different things I have to get done and have a special high speed built in. I have 2 fiber cable lines going here, so I can really get my stuff out properly. But that's not the typical norm. So the typical norm consists of some medium speed landline, whether it's copper or it's fiber, and some average router, internet router. Some are really good and some are, well, not so fantastic. And that's where actually the problems start for many companies. They just don't have the proper infrastructure. So let's think at software. Of course, I could go and install a software on a notebook from an employee and let him work from home. Yes, but what if he has to access with that software the database or the server that's sitting in the office? Of course, I need routers, switches, and all these things. But maybe that stuff is already there. What if they're moving it all into the cloud? Or, of course, I could use VPN, and then maybe I need more powerful switches and routers and switches and firewalls and blah, 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 blah. But how many companies are really going to go that way? Some definitely will do. But just for the short time, just have a quick fix until their IT department have more or less figured it out how to actually long-term wise react to the current situation. Because we don't know in the different countries how long this whole craziness is going to continue. And it is going to hit your sales. Which means if you are selling stuff that people are not really going to use long term, you are depriving yourself of your opportunity to upsell in the long term. Because if the company then eventually moves into the cloud or a different kind of environment, you have a problem. Of course, you could say social distancing is something good because it means that these classical big businesses with big open, let's say the big office environments where you've got all the cubicles and so on, that really doesn't work. So they have to have more space in between. More space means certainly they would have to have more expensive space. Because instead of having 4 people working on a given square meter, you have then actually fewer people sitting on that space. And that space costs a lot of money. And most of the big companies or medium-sized companies, they actually don't own the premises where they are located. So they could go and cut the offices up, which means they would move people out either into home office or into smaller facilities somewhere else outside the countryside where it's cheaper. Because let's say you've got somebody in a big office in London. And then you decide, okay, I've got 1,000 employees sitting in London. Now I have to actually cut the whole organization up. Because if I go and do what I would have to do, I might need, instead of, let's say, 100,000 square feet, I need 400,000 square feet. So multiply by 4. That's crazy. That's really crazy. And it's going to cost a lot of money. And I'm going, as a business, going to make more money because I quadruple my space? No, absolutely not. I'm going to lose money. So what can I do? I go and move everybody out into locations. So everybody who, for instance, is living in the area of Reading, I can move into a smaller facility in Reading. And everybody who lives more in Watford, for instance, I can move into Watford. And that's something that is possible. So what can we do then? As you see, there's a possibility to move out. And the same thing, it can be even of advantage to the people who are working, because everybody who, for instance, lives around Watford, Hampstead and so on, doesn't need to take the Metropolitan line or maybe even take the train to Euston Station to get into the office. It's a big advantage. And it offers an opportunity that you don't have the need to be stuck in the home office every 5 days a week. So you could, for instance, go 2 days a week into the office, arrange it with your colleagues so that you don't have not so many people on one space. And it's much easier and more convenient, because instead of maybe having to travel maybe for 45 minutes, you have maybe a 10-minute commute by car or whatever. It's much more convenient. You can even maybe on the way there get your shopping done on your way home. It's easier. If you're traveling with the train, you can't go and go to Tesco and buy all different kinds of stuff. It's just absolutely not possible, realistically. Of course, not always things can happen, like bags ripping and other stuff. But yeah, it's every kind of commuting at the moment, whatever country, where you're traveling from, for instance, let's say from Stockholm inside central into the outside skirts, anywhere to Uppsala or all the other places, or even have to travel to Malmö and all these other places around the area, it becomes really inconvenient, or inconvenient for anyone else who is having to travel with you. So this decentralization is a big opportunity for salespeople, because companies are getting now new kind of problems. It's how do I get somebody to be properly equipped at home? How do we get the whole thing stuck and set up? Maybe they just don't have the necessary manpower in the IT departments in order to roll out the whole stuff professionally. They just don't have the skills, and they don't have the time to train people. So that's something where you can even sell services and infrastructure that fits to the need. And even if they're actually going and moving into smaller offices, yes, then they will need switches, they will need firewalls, they will need hubs, and maybe solutions that make it a little bit easier to connect with the central system. At the same time, it could happen that these big companies actually decide to move out of their existing headquarter premises, because that, firstly, is too expensive for what they're actually using it. Secondly, they have maybe much more attractive alternative options, so they don't actually need to be based inside London. Why should they? The same thing if let's say the company is based in Liverpool. Yeah, you can be having your offices near the Liver building, just on the docks. It's a beautiful area to go around. When it's windy, that's really breezing and pushing off the side. But the core thing is, does the company have to be in a central location anymore? No, not really. That still opens opportunities for you, because even if they have to move and they're moving out of the headquarters, they will have equipment that maybe is no longer fitting to the future needs. Maybe it's already anyway outdated. So they will then say, we need a new equipment in our new headquarters. It'll be smaller, but we still need more efficiency, because maybe some systems we have in the cloud, some systems we have in a local premises. And for that, we need good, proper bandwidth, because otherwise our maybe 1,000, 2,000 employees somewhere in the outskirts, whether they are in Southport or Preston or even in Manchester, anywhere there, or even in Sheffield, anywhere around the countryside, they still need to have good access. At least your company shouldn't be the bottleneck. Yes, certain internet providers have bottlenecks in certain regions, and the more people are working from home, the more this will be causing problems. But even then, you are able in the future, and that's something that will be coming for the next 2 years, I'm sure, you will have new opportunities to even offer new kinds of communication platforms. And this whole thing with all these disagreements about G4, G3, G5 or other kind of speed networks, whether it's healthy, not healthy, and so on, most of it is actually just hype and garbage or stuff that somebody is just trying to push somehow just to get one competitor off the market by telling fake news and other kind of stuff. But for you as a salesperson, that's a huge opportunity because people have to upgrade their home environment. Companies have to upgrade their employees' home environment, and they have to upgrade as well their decentralized infrastructure for the smaller offices, for offices that are maybe not always in the best location. They maybe find a location that's actually quite good for what they needed. They maybe have to wait maybe 2, 3, 4 months to have a good, proper, decent fiber cable connection. But even then, it'll be a nice, good rollout project for you because it'll go month by month. Some people will be pushed out into working from home and they'll say, okay, well, you do this and this task and so on, and you connect this way and that, and on this days, and eventually things will improve. Because, of course, even a company who's had, like, let's say 100 or 1,000 people working in administration, they usually have thin clients. They have maybe desktops, any kind of device, not usually notebooks. Because in an organization, who usually has a notebook? Managers, sales team, maybe marketing, maybe the IT guys have it, and a few very specialized people who need it because they have to travel and that. But otherwise, everybody else, they don't need a notebook. A cheap desktop computer is totally enough. But now the game has changed. They can't use the thing. The stuff is huge. It's not powerful enough. Practically, the home environment has to be adapted. And if you are practically having to tell your employee to go and give you 4 square feet or more, whatever, to hold a desktop, a big screen, and this and that, it becomes a problem. So you have to really see, how can I find what is absolutely necessary so that my clients will buy from me? And that's the thing. Don't try to sell stuff that is no longer really necessary. Try to build the framework, the foundation that you need so that you get more people to buy from you. And it means as well, you have to be ingenuitive. You have to be doing a sort of a trust building. You have to do a sort of a marketing, you could say. As a salesperson, you'll have to as well do marketing because you have to build the awareness in your client's mind. So that eventually he will come to you and say, well, we thought we need this and we need that. Okay, can you please get me this somehow done? Bring it all into a proper set that will work because we've decided we're going to move 100 people to there, 100 people to there, 100 people there, and so on. And suddenly you've got even projects maybe in Newport, in Edinburgh, in Perth, in Dundee. It doesn't matter. You get a huge project because then all the bigger locations of these companies will as well be dismantled because maybe these locations who originally were designed to hold 100 people are, by the current rules, actually only able to maybe hold 20 people. So that's crazy if you think, wait a minute, what do I do with the other 80? Exactly, that's it. So let's recognize and think about it. What is really needed to set the foundation for salespeople to have that kind of success? And it doesn't matter whether you are the business owner and you're doing the sales together with your sales team, and that's your core focus of your activities, or you are one of the salespeople who's been hired to do certain kind of sales activities for them. And the thing is, even if companies are laying off and you eventually maybe even lose your current job, you want to be able to actually quickly get yourself into a new position where you are able to generate sales. And even if it means that you have to actually start your own business, because that's something that you could still do. Just because you say, well, I'm 40 or I'm 45 or 50 or 55, it doesn't mean that you're dead. It means, okay, if you want to retire by 60 or 65, yes, you have less time to do it. But when the thing is getting really hot and exciting, do you really want to retire with 65 when it's so much fun and you're generating a lot of cash flow? Not really, if it's fun. If it's boring and painful, well, who wouldn't want to retire earlier and get rid of that just headache that's part of your life every day? But that's then something definitely that you are not excited about and you don't want to do. But yeah, so look at the different kind of infrastructure. And as I said, you can really double your income by the amount of sales that you get in. Because if you focus on the right things, press the right buttons with your leads and existing client base, you will double revenue and double, of course, as well your income, or even more. So what would it mean even for other people? Let's say you're a sales guy in the UK, you're a sales guy in Germany, in the US, in Canada, in Sweden, in Belgium or whatever. And it doesn't matter if you are selling to clients inside your own country, selling to clients in other countries, in a different continent, totally different region, a different language and that. It doesn't matter. It's still a huge opportunity to increase your income, but you have to do it in a very, very smart way. And how could that be? You have to find the key differences in these different countries and work on actually optimizing your sales proposition. Finding what's going to really resonate with them, and be aware that, of course, the infrastructure in different countries will not necessarily reflect the infrastructure in your own home country or even in your home region. Let's say you are based in, Peterborough. Yeah. Let's say you're based in Peterborough and you are enjoying a good internet connection. Well, if you even just go like drive 5 or 10 miles out of your area, drive towards, let's say, Ramsey or anything like that, you'll have a totally different infrastructure. The same thing if you are based in Oxford or in Cambridge or in Watford, in Hemel Hempstead, in Aberdeen, Trent-on-Stoke, and whatever other kind of places. Doesn't matter, but you'll definitely have a stroke if you actually are putting the same expectations on quality of infrastructure in your target area with what you're doing at home. Because it means actually that you are going to suffer an issue with your sales. Your clients need to have the right infrastructure for what you are offering them. And even if in the future things are going to change, you need to be aware how you can really adapt for different countries. Because even let's say you're based in Stockholm, you're selling a solution, especially for clients who are maybe based in Denmark. Let's say you've got a client in Copenhagen, you have maybe a client in Oslo, in Norway. Maybe you have a client even in Hamburg and one maybe in, let's say, Birmingham. Yeah, in the United Kingdom, you have a client in Birmingham. They all have different kind of infrastructure. It makes a huge difference whether your client is actually in the city outskirts, or in a smaller city just outside of that big city area. So that makes a huge difference. And sometimes even in these areas, the infrastructure might be even better than in the big city. Because even the city has difficulties to get everything running in the same quantity in a huge area than what it means for a small town. Because for a small town has just a few hundred roads. A big city like London with maybe 8,000 locations to attach to fiber cable. It's a huge project. They practically would have to start now to rip the streets apart, put fiber cable into every house. And it's not enough to go say, oh, we'll use G5 or we'll use other kind of stuff. They literally have to rip the streets up. And that's crazy because actually the UK actually has to go in a different direction. And they did it before with satellite television. Laying cables around is just crazy. But the thing is, bandwidth. How do we handle bandwidth in areas where we maybe have mountains, where we have big buildings with a lot of concrete and so on? That creates issues and so on. But yeah, look at Sweden. Same thing. Sweden has very innovative products, innovative companies in that, and lots of salespeople who are definitely up on their game and doing quite a great work. But what do you do if it's raining? For instance, here at the moment, I'm just looking out of the window and it's just started bucketing. It is raining. The street looks as if you could put a dinghy on and paddle your way through to the next baker. But that's the thing. Even in the current times, bakeries are having issues in selling their products because nobody wants to go out. So you are the sales guy and you want to double your income. That doesn't matter what the weather is, whether it's raining, it's bucketing, whether it's winter or autumn, whether you're in the south or the north, whether you're in the city or outside. You have plenty of opportunities to double your income by actually finding what are the right opportunities to sell. Let's have a look at an example, for instance. For instance, my own business has a SAS solution for for city councils. Yeah. Let's say you are a little bit naughty and creating a little bit havoc in the city. Then, yeah, you might get fined because you're being a little bit of a naughty guy. Hopefully then you might learn your lesson and don't do these stupidities in the future. So that's something, of course, that might be interesting in other countries. And then I would have to look, okay, what are the different things? What are the rules in different countries? What are the different opportunities I have? And then you as a sales guy, if I say, okay, we will target everybody in Sweden, all these cities and that, you'll have to think, okay, how do I get the Swedish people convinced to buy our solution? Yeah, so let's say you are a sales guy and you think, I could do that. I could sell that stuff. I could sell these services even to my clients around Birmingham, Peterborough, Liverpool, Manchester. No problem. Even Cardiff, you can sell it? Awesome. Let me know, because that's certainly an opportunity where you can double your income as well in the future. Look at other solutions, other situations. For instance, with all this whole lot of people moving home, working from home, they somehow have to be reachable as well for their colleagues. So everybody needs to somehow be able to take a phone call. And maybe the cell phone is not always the best thing. Let's say you've got good internet access, but the mobile phone reception in your area is just so poor. Well, you can't go and tell your employees to move house just because one of these cell phone providers just can't get his work done and put some proper masks on. But what if people don't want to have these masks with the phone systems nearby? Then you have to somehow use the available infrastructure, and that's the internet connections to fiber cable, and get them on the phone. So you need a virtual phone system. That's something, of course, that you as a sales guy can find see what would I need. Some people might install an app. Others maybe need a desk phone because maybe they don't even own a cell phone. Maybe a desk phone is even better because then you can talk with a cable and a headset and so on, depending on what it is. Maybe you even have the receptionist working from home. She doesn't know who's where and there, but with the system, she can see, okay, of the IT department, for the databases, 5 guys are logged in. One has set himself busy because he maybe is programming something, he doesn't want to be disturbed, and the other 2 guys can take calls. So she tries to route it to these 2 guys, and one of them will take the phone call and handle the situation and help the client. So that's something, for instance, you could offer as a salesperson. When you say, wait a minute, but I sell fixed phone systems, means I wouldn't be able to sell phone systems in the future because they don't going to buy hardware again. That's true. But come on. Many businesses are moving anyway towards voice over IP telephone systems. And hey, whether they buy it from you or from the competitor, I think you'll surely rather have them buy it from you. Because the physical hardware, the PBX, they're not going to buy it from you. And this is absolutely a valid trend moving in the IT sector. And it doesn't matter whether you're in the UK, whether you're in Germany, in north, east, west, south of the US, whether you're in Florida, California, in Toronto, Ottawa or Vancouver, it doesn't matter. Even in Johannesburg, it's the same game. Things are moving. Things are moving to all sorts of different systems. But you as a sales guy, you have to be on top of your game and you have to get the client to buy from you. It's your duty to sell them the right kind of product. Don't sell them garbage that's not going to work because that's going to bounce off you. Trying to make a quick dime on something that's not going to work, that's not good because in the future the client will not buy from you again. So what could you do, of course? Try to build trust. Try to find out as well what really is necessary, what are the key factors, so that you actually can prove to the client that you've got a really good solution for him, and he will then entrust you with more projects. And this way you will double, and if you are smart enough, maybe even quadruple your income. Why not? There's nothing that says against it. So have a great time, and I hope you have been taking maybe some notes. Take the time to think about it, because it's very important how you're going to move for the next 12 months. This whole craziness that's going around, companies not investing. Companies maybe investing in one area instead of the other one. Companies moving people into home office environment. Companies laying people off. Many people becoming unemployed. And others maybe using an opportunity to even do a quick dime or maybe even generate new sales, build new companies. You have to decide where you want to be on that game field. Definitely, if you want to be one of the spectators and at the end just complain because everything is worse, you're not going to do a favor to yourself, nor your family or your friends or your colleagues. So find a way to double your income by building the foundation now for the next 12 months. That's what you have to work on and get that really well on its way. Thank you for listening. Well, that's all for today's episode of The Growth Zone. Thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Spotify so you never miss an episode. Plus, if you haven't got your signed copy of the marketing book, stop by on our website at book.prmediareach.com and hurry, because the reserved batch of signed books are almost sold out. So, the address is book.prmediareach.com. I'll repeat, book.prmediareach.com. I hope you found the information that we were talking about today's episode useful. So what are we going to talk about in the next episode? It's all about logistics. How can logistics help us as companies, whether we are small or medium-sized companies, cut our supply costs? How can we speed up things? So we'll be looking at following 3 core areas or 3 questions, let's say. Why is it important to have a well-organized logistics, even as a small company? We'll have a look at a case study based on sourcing of products that might be either current things that many companies are sourcing. That's, for instance, all these medical masks, or other kinds of products, let's say even rework stations, other kind of industrial equipment. We're not going to look at consumer products. So it's not about how you're going to source your products from China in order to go and get them sold on Amazon and have an FBA. Now, that's a different area, but yes, you can learn a few things of that so that you don't run into pitfalls that often happens to FBA people who are trying to source the stuff. But let's look at the bigger products, because what we'll be looking at products are usually in a big quantity. We are talking about deals that usually cost about $10,000 to $100,000 or even more. And I'll be giving as well some insights from what I learned as well during my training at BMW. Many years ago, when I did one of my first departments where I had to work in was logistics for manufacturing parts. And I was shown one very interesting example of what once was wrongly ordered. And since then, obviously, the story has always been told to every apprentice in that area when they start to learn as well how logistics works in these kind of companies. And we then finalize that with how all this kind of information, knowledge, and how we can create, even if it's a small 1 or 2 person logistics setup inside our business, how we can use that to really cut our costs and be more efficient, and definitely increase the success and the profits that we can generate by having a logistics that is able to source products, whether it's locally or even far away places, whether it's South Africa, China, Malaysia, USA, doesn't matter. Even if you're just sourcing special products from places like Germany, France, Spain, it doesn't matter. We ship as well stuff for clients to different countries. We have clients in Japan, clients in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, USA, and so on. And we source as well and supply them with different kinds of special products. Stuff that you can't usually just go and buy in any store, and that it's products that you really need them for business appliances and applications. So that's what we will be talking about. It's logistics and how it can really help small, medium-sized companies cut their supply costs. And how this can be as well a game changer, especially even for startups as well, especially when you're just starting and you are having a product that needs some parts from abroad. Then you really will have a problem, because if the quality and the supply is not the way you need it, you will run in a bad problem, and your consumers, your end clients, whether it's an industrial client or a consumer, they won't like it. And you don't want to really get burned on your first few deals.